AI is rewriting the business playbook, with productivity boosts and faster decision-making coming to every industry. If you're not thinking about AI, you can bet your competition is. This is not where you want to drop the ball. But AI requires a lot of compute power. And with most cloud platforms, the cost for your AI workloads can spiral. That is, unless you're running on OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. This was the cloud built for AI, a blazing fast enterprise-grade platform for your infrastructure, database, apps, and all your AI workloads. OCI costs 50% less than other major hyperscalers for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Thousands of businesses have already scored with OCI, including Vodafone, Thomson Reuters, and Suno AI. Now the ball's in your court.
Right now, Oracle can cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to OCI. Minimum financial commitment and other terms apply. Offer ends March 31st. See if your company qualifies for this special offer at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Creativity doesn't wait. It moves, shifts, evolves, just like you. And with the Yoga PC from Lenovo, your tools finally keep up. Stunning, smart, and sustainably sourced, Yoga PCs from Lenovo are designed to amplify your creativity with AI-powered performance. Whether you're sketching, editing, animating, or composing, Yoga moves with you, adapting to your creativity, to your rhythm. With beautiful displays and the flexibility to shift from laptop to tablet, Yoga unlocks new ways to inspire and create. Because at Lenovo, we believe your tools should fuel your flow, not hold you back. Yoga PCs from Lenovo support you at every step of your creative journey. So check out lenovo.com/yoga and supercharge your creativity with yoga. Lenovo. Empowering creators everywhere.
Where'd you get those shoes? Easy. They're from DSW. Because DSW has the exact right shoes for whatever you're into right now. You know, like the sneakers that make office hours feel like happy hour. The boots that turn grocery aisles into runways. And all the styles that show off the many sides of you, from daydreamer to multitasker and everything in between. Because you do it all in really great shoes. Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store or dsw.com.
Episode 488, Start Healing Your Money Trauma with Shannah Game.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we are talking about money traumas, not just big ones, but small ones as well.
Yeah, big T, little t. How to even identify if you've experienced money trauma, how to heal from it. So really, really great conversation that I think we'll all get a lot out of. But first, this episode is brought to you by people in your corner. The ones cheering you on, providing encouragement, creating a distraction so no one sees that embarrassing near fall. Need some more people like this? Us, Jen and Jill, giving you the Friendletter to your inbox weekly with updates on freebies and deals, tips on how to spend better, ways to improve your relationship with money. So get us in your corner. frugalfriendspodcast.com. Sign up for the Friendletter.
Yes. All right. So before I want to just preface this by saying, like, sometimes money trauma, sometimes the word trauma can be like a heavy word, but this really does encompass all of our, Shannah says it, money icks. If trauma feels too heavy of a word, you can also describe it as an ick. And I think even like I got to learn some language to talk about some of the things that I've felt about money in the past. So I think this is a really good interview. If you are encouraged by this episode and you want to queue up a couple others for later, we've got episode 482, How Our Nervous System Impacts Our Spending, and episode 473, How to Become a Better Financial Decision Maker. That's with Jessica Morehouse. And those are two really, really good ones to queue up for later. So let's get into it. Shannah is a financial planner. She's a certified trauma of money specialist and author of the upcoming book, Unraveling Your Relationship with Money, all about money traumas and the things she's talking about today. She has over 20 years of expertise in the industry, and she doesn't let that give her jargon. She really does have a relatable, no-nonsense approach to money. So her book is already out, already available, and we just hope that if this is something that you feel like you need more on, that is definitely where to go. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Let's talk to Shannah.
Shannah, welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
This is a conversation I'm surprised we haven't really had,
especially with Jill on the show for almost 500 episodes.
I mean, we touch on these types of conversations, but we've never had an episode titled something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it absolutely makes sense that we would have you on, Shannah, to help us through this conversation as well. So glad that you're here.
Yes. Okay, so let's start out with what kinds of life events or experiences can cause money trauma?
This is what's really interesting because I think a lot of times people think that it has to be something big, right? Like that maybe you grew up in poverty or there was a lot of financial stress in your family. And those things for sure are indicators of money trauma. But it could also be something that is seemingly small. For instance, let's say you forgot to pay a bill and then it went to collections or your credit score dropped, right? And it was just a complete accident. But every time you look at your bank statement or your phone app, you feel these somatic, like inner body experiences, like your hands start, your palms get sweaty and your heart starts racing and your shoulders get tight and there's something going on, right? It's causing this traumatic response in you from this seemingly small event. So it could be, both of those things on either spectrum and anything in between. It could be maybe you were in a relationship with someone and maybe there was some level of financial abuse, or even they just made you feel really terrible, horrible for how you spent your money, or debt you might have been in, or your student loan. Any of those things that cause this emotional kind of pain and distress inside of you is trauma, money trauma showing up. So it could be so many different situations. And that's why I think taking a moment of having awareness. So when you go to look at your app the next time of your bank, or you're in a conversation with someone, or maybe you're out with your friends and you start to feel those bodily sensations or something going on inside that feels anxiety, shame, judgment, nervousness, that's your cue to go, okay, what is actually going on here? And where is this even coming from?
Yeah, money situations can cause a disruption to our sense of safety and security and put us in this kind of hyper-vigilant mode of almost fight, flight, freeze. I've experienced this at times with, unexpected, really large bills of, oh no, what is going to happen to me? And, over time, the bodily remembrance of that experience and, what that then did to me and my way of thinking, and then what kind of actions that caused, and then kind of how we might end up living out of that place too is, if we don't kind of recognize it as a trauma, which I think you're kind of helping us to identify, like these are disruptive experiences and can, really cause us a bit of chaos inside of ourselves. And if we don't acknowledge that, then what kinds of habits and behaviors then form as a result of that?
Yeah, this is also another really interesting one. We all talk about emergency funds and how important emergency funds are. A lot of people actually experience a sense of trauma around spending or needing to spend their emergency fund. They feel a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and their brain goes into that fight or flight mode of, well, what if I need this money down the line? What if another emergency comes up? And it creates this trauma where it's, in fact, so difficult to even move money from emergency fund to checking account. And a lot of people will then just turn to credit cards. The idea of being in credit card debt actually feels better to them, is less of a traumatic response than spending money from a savings account. So there's all these really sneaky ways, which is, I think, what makes this so difficult to like put a container around. And that's why I really suggest just paying attention to what's going on in your body and where you are and who you're around and, kind of the whole environment of what's happening in those situations.
Yeah, speaking of paying attention, what would you say are some of the signs that someone might be struggling with some unresolved money trauma?
Obviously, avoidance, right? So if we're avoiding looking at our money or we're avoiding doing some of the tasks around money that we know are important, we've talked about the bodily sensations. So anxiety, stress, shame, judgment, fear, nervousness, any of those things. But then also something that, kind of correlates with your show, patterns of overspending or underspending could be signs that, there's some sort of money trauma going on there that needs to be investigated. And then also a difficulty of setting and achieving money goals. So I often tell people that, think of money trauma this way. You're on one side of a bridge and you really want to get to the other side of the bridge. You've got these things you want to do with money, but you can't figure out how to get there, whether it's paying off debt or saving to buy a house or whatever it is. Or it's your spending or your, relationship around money with your partner. There's something that's keeping you stuck on one side of the bridge. That's a good indication that there's some sort of money trauma. There's something underneath the onion layers there that's worth looking into that is stopping you from being able to get to the place that you really want to get to.
Yeah, I see this. I think even when people are financially successful, I see a lot of money trauma, and sometimes the success is a result of it. And people don't think about that. Like, even after we paid off our debt, my husband and I paid off $78,000 in 2 years. And afterwards, I thought, okay, all of my problems are solved. My money is fine. I'm at like net zero. I own a house. I'm fine. And now when I go to spend, I feel guilty because for 2 years, my money had this ultimate purpose. And I had nothing else to focus on but this one financial goal. And now I have some like PTSD from overvaluing that financial goal too much for those 2 years and not having a one to like fall back on as seriously. And so that's what led me to the FIRE movement. I wasn't dealing with that. I just transferred it to another good financial goal. And it wasn't till I got laid off that I actually was forced to deal with it because then I could no longer afford to be quote unquote financially successful anymore. Like, to me, that is, nobody was talking about that kind of trauma.
Absolutely. I'm just curious, like, what did you do to work through it? Like, once you had that kind of aha moment, this is what's happening.
Well, and a lot of it, so a lot of that working through it is made it into our book. And it was, I placed my value and my identity in how good I was at saving. And before I didn't have a money identity, before I was just spending and I was making budgets and not sticking to them. And then I succeeded at something financially. So then, okay, I've succeeded in this. So now my identity is in this. So now I have to keep succeeding in it. And so then I couldn't have that as my identity anymore. So then I would love to say that I dealt with it, but then I just started freelance writing and being my own boss. And I put my identity and my success there. And it was when I got burnt out there very quickly with a newborn that I had to be like, oh my gosh, I'm just transferring my identity from success to success. I have to figure out who I truly am and what I truly value and what my enough is and put my identity there if I really want to use money as a tool and not an identity.
I love that you shared that story because that is the whole package, right? And I think a real part of when we recognize these bodily sensations or these things that might be causing trauma, a really important piece is just the acknowledgement and the validation of these feelings that these exist. And that, again, that doesn't make me a terrible, horrible person. It's just I experienced something, or I my money story from growing up. These were beliefs and values that I've transferred over from my parents or that I saw and heard, and they're playing out in my money, in my interactions with money. So I think we tend to overlook that really important piece that you're talking about of acknowledging and validating how you're feeling, because that's the first place of going, okay, well, now what do we do from here?
Creating a solid financial plan for you and your family should include term life insurance. That's where Fabric by Gerber Life comes in. Fabric offers flexible term life insurance to give you peace of mind and protects your loved ones financially in case the unexpected happens.
Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance you can get done right from your couch, all online and on your schedule. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required.
This is an important thing to do, especially if you've got kids and certainly if you're young and healthy. The time to lock in low rates is now. Even if you have life insurance through your employer, it may not offer enough protection for your family, and it may not follow you if you leave your job.
Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/frugal. That's meetfabric.com/frugal, MEET fabric.com/frugal. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. If you're in a food slump, struggle to cook at home, or just in a really busy season, we recommend trying out HelloFresh, who are now the owners of Every Plate, with an even greater variety of meals. You can now enjoy the goodness of both brands with a Frugal Friends discount.
HelloFresh cuts out the need for meal planning and grocery shopping and offers 50 wholesome meals to choose from each week, delivered straight to your door. Plus, they have new options for ready-made meals that take just 3 minutes to prep.
I personally love HelloFresh for the opportunity to learn new skills in the kitchen and try flavor combinations I never would have thought of. It makes eating at home much more efficient without sacrificing flavor or health goals. Plus, it helps me reduce food waste.
Get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast.
Trust isn't just earned, it's demanded. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a seasoned security professional scaling your GRC program, proving your commitment to security has never been more critical or more complex. That's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance needs over 35 frameworks, like SOC 2 and ISO 27001. Centralize security workflows, complete questionnaires up to 5 times faster, and proactively manage vendor risk. Vanta can help you start or scale your security program by connecting you with auditors and experts to conduct your audit and set up your security program quickly. Plus, with automation and AI throughout the platform, Vanta gives you time back so you can focus on building your company. Join over 9,000 global companies like Atlassian, Quora, and Factory who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. For a limited time, our audience gets $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/special. That's VANTA.com/special for $1,000 off.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on what your kids are spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/iHeart.
Okay, so what do we do from here? Like, what can someone do to start healing from money traumas, whether they're successes or maybe quote unquote, failures or whatever you would define them as?
We've talked about the piece of acknowledging what's going on in my body, who I'm around, all of that. That is absolutely like ground zero, step one here. Once we recognize that that's happening, I think then there is what you just described. Your process is thinking about, well, where does this come from? Can I identify any root, any foundation of what this is? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a thing that happened to me? Is it a belief? Like, I love journaling. So I think this might be a great, if somebody listening is into journaling, of just kind of free writing without judging yourself, of thinking about, from that curiosity perspective. You talked about that on my show, of investigating it, almost if you were an outside person and you were kind of looking at these set of facts and trying to decipher where they came from. So doing that. And then I think once you have this understanding of where this came from, there's a lot of different exercises depending on the type of person that you are. There's an exercise I talk about in my book, Unraveling Your Relationship with Money, which is financial forgiveness. So it's pretty simple, but it actually is pretty powerful. And there are scientific studies behind exercises like this. But it's setting a timer on your phone, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it doesn't matter, whatever feels good to you. And writing out all of the things that you feel really bad about money. Maybe things that you spent money on, or mistakes that you made, or gosh, my parents did this around money and now I'm doing the same thing. Like, just write it all out without any judgment. Step away from that assignment when the timer goes off for 24 hours. Come back, reread this with a fresh brain perspective. And then the last step is we got to get rid of it. Shred it, burn it, throw it in the trash. I don't care what you do with it, whatever feels cathartic to you. But there's a lot of scientific studies behind getting stuff that's in our brain that we just ruminate on, getting it out onto paper and letting some of these things go. And then another thing I talk about is, when we're dealing with money trauma, we're talking about events and situations that happened in the past, things that we have been through. So that stuff we cannot change. But going forward, we have a lot of self-control over what we do going forward. And so if you are somebody who's a journaler, I love creating what I call your money hero story. So this is writing the story for yourself of what it looks like in your relationship with money, what it looks like for you to define enoughness, to define wealth, to figure out what you value spending money on, all of these things. Write that story and be your own hero of what this journey looks like going forward.
I so appreciate how you're acknowledging that in the midst of trauma, we can also come across shame and regret and maybe even mistakes or failure, although we don't view those things as negative things, but the weight that they can cause for us, that there's so much wrapped up here, but that they need to be acknowledged and ventilated and looked at and then dealt with, whether by we're gonna turn a new leaf, we're gonna move forward. But I think I realized this, even in writing the book that we just put out, kind of some of the financial regret that I have. I don't know that with this particular piece I would call it a money trauma, but sometimes I wish that I had chosen a career path that would have been a little bit more lucrative for me instead of the social work career that, paid me $24,000 a year. And yet also being able to, I think it wasn't until I said that, man, this kind of stinks. Sometimes I wish I had chosen something different, to then, like you're saying, give myself that space, come back to it and say, but what did it provide? And almost this new gratitude to I was able to do work and engage with people and be a support and truly help people in difficult situations as a result of this. And so, yes, there was sacrifice, but there was also a becoming that happened inside of me as part of that. And so I think I'm just kind of underscoring the process that you're describing to say that when this happens, new perspective can come. And gratitude can even be paired with what we might have previously thought was poor decision making or financial regret or things we were previously ashamed of. We can bring new lenses to that and a new narrative to it, and then have like a healthier foundation to be able to move forward from.
And I think that's such a great perspective because, a couple of things I want to say. If money trauma feels, for a lot of people, that feels like a very heavy word, right? When we're talking about trauma, it feels like, ugh. So I tell people, just think of it as like, financial ick. Like when you get those ick feelings, right? If the word trauma feels too big for you. But I think we've been so trained, especially around money, to think negatively of ourselves, to think that we have made mistakes and that that's the worst thing ever. And our brain is really trained to act out every day in that perspective. So it takes some heavy lifting. It's like training for a marathon. We don't just go out and run, 26 miles. The same thing with trying to re-regulate our nervous system around money and also our brain around money and our interactions, our habits, all of those things. They're going to take time. So when we notice these areas, I think it's important to focus on tiny little wins. So when you're talking about renaming things, a way that money trauma shows up a lot of times is debt. People have debt, and that obviously is a very traumatic, heavy experience. Jen, you were sharing your story around debt. But I think we can get stuck in the trauma feeling of that. And Jill, you're talking about gratitude piece. Like, what if, and I know this is crazy for most people to think this way, but what if we looked at our debt and said, okay, I don't like it. I don't want it. I want to figure out how to get a way out of it. But look at what it actually has provided. Like maybe it provided a roof, or it started my business, or it paid for my kids' childcare, or even though that's not how I wanted that to happen, it happened, right? So I can choose how I'm framing that. And that starts to take away some of that emotional just power and starts to change the narrative around things that feel really big and heavy around money.
I love how you're describing like our relationship with money. And this is such an interesting concept to me because in typical like relationships, if something is not healthy, we can kind of choose to opt out and remove ourselves from that situation and find relationships that are healthy and aren't traumatizing us. But when it comes to money, we still have to engage in it. And so it's this reworking that I'm hearing you describe of here's how I used to relate to money, but how can I help to make this relationship more healthy, the way that I view and engage with money? Can you describe a little bit kind of for yourself or maybe people that you've worked with, what that shift can look like or what you've seen for people as they go from I had a toxic relationship with money. Money's still there. I have to engage with it. But now I've got a healthy relationship with money, like what that shift looks like.
Well, as I talk about in my book, our relationship with money, I believe is the longest relationship you're going to have outside of your relationship with yourself. Because our whole lives, we're having to deal with this thing called money. So just what you're saying, Jill, like we would just opt out, right? If we were dating somebody and they said terrible things to us and they treated us horribly, we would just say, bye-bye. Like, this is not working.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Right? Hopefully. But we can't do that with money. So we owe ourselves a permission slip to try to do this thing differently. And a story I talk about in my book, this is a personal story. I am a 20-year money expert. But just because I am does not mean that I don't have these hangups around money that everyone else does. It's probably why I actually went into the career, to be honest with you. But I used to hate looking at ATM receipts because what would happen is I would look at the numbers And I would start, my brain is one of those just super analytical, overactive. I would start subtracting all of the things that I knew I needed to pay. And in a nanosecond, I had myself broke, homeless, everything was going to be repossessed. Like, that's how irrational we can be around money. And because we don't walk around sharing this stuff with anyone else, right? We think we're our own little container. And so I got divorced in my early 30s. And as I left my house, and the only thing I had to my name was a car with a really expensive car payment and a blue suitcase. That was all I had. I went to the ATM because I needed to take some money out. And it was that moment where I thought, okay, instead of taking these ATM receipts and turning them into origami and shoving them into my wallet, I need to actually look. And so I thought, well, what if I'm a big phone timer person. Like, what if I set my timer for a minute? And I looked at the receipt for a minute, and that was the most exposure I could have, that I could humanly possibly handle at that time period. So I did that, and I thought, okay, that wasn't so bad. What if I set the timer for 5 minutes next time? And I tell myself, you only have 5 minutes where you can think whatever thoughts are running crazy in your brain. Once that timer's off, we're going to let this go. And so I started to then work on these little incremental exposure habits around things that felt really scary about money. And I started then teaching those to clients. Like, well, what if you did this? Or what if it was, only this little time period? Or you had a money date, but it was 10 minutes and that was it, And I started noticing that when the human brain could say, okay, this is my time frame for doing some of these things that feel really scary. And then on the other end, I would tell people, give yourself a tiny little reward. Something really, inexpensive, but something that you super love, because we love that aspect as humans. And so I started to see people they're starting to cross the bridge now with just these little shifts in how they're interacting with these big topics around money that feel super heavy, super traumatizing to them. And so everything that I talk about in the book's super personal, and I have other people's stories, comes from my experience. And then me saying, okay, I have to change my relationship with money. Let me try it on other people and see if it works for other people. And it, whether somebody was making $1 million or somebody was just starting out, I would see, these same aha moments happen. There has to be something here that we're not taught about when we're taught traditional personal finance.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is so crazy. Because I also, having been in personal finance writing for 8 years, still deal with a lot of these money traumas. They don't just go away. When you were I think I got into this because of them. And I was yeah, I think I did too, because I was miserable paying off debt. And so I started writing about it to help people that wanted to do what I was doing, which is pay off debt, but not be as miserable. So they don't just go away. No matter how much you know about money, no matter how many podcasts you listen to or books you read, knowing more does not solve the problem. It's actually taking these steps to learn about yourself.
Ooh, got to do the work.
Yeah.
Speaking of relationships, and you talked about our relationship with money, but I also imagine that money trauma impacts just our actual relationships with the people around us. What have you seen with that? And what does healing look like in that regard when we do notice that these money traumas are impacting the way that we're relating with other people?
Almost every single couple that I've either coached or are in my life have a very interesting dynamic around money. For a lot of people, there is a very charged feelings around this. A lot of times people will say, well, we're just going to keep our accounts separate because that way we'll never argue about money. And I'm like, no, doesn't work that way. there is stuff that's going to come up, or what happens if one of you are disabled or lose your job. Like, we cannot avoid those situations. And I think that we feel so charged mainly because we don't understand our own money traumas or our own relationship with money or our own money story. We don't really want to think about those things because for a lot of us, that's scary. Money is already scary. So we do not want to hyper focus on those sorts of things. So if we don't know that about ourselves, or we're not willing to be honest, and we've got two people involved, that's two people having the same kind of human response to money. And so that's what leads to, defensiveness, arguments, divorce, breaking up, all sorts of things around money. And I really think the way to heal this with couples is coming from a place of non-judgment and coming from that place of curiosity and being super interested in, tell me about how money was talked about when you grew up. Tell me about like some of those beliefs that you carried over from childhood. Tell me about the things that get you really nervous or you're scared about around money. And also, I think I talk in the book about 4 money personalities. I think it's important to understand what your strengths are around money, what your partner's strengths, and then what your blind spots are, because often we choose a partner that's different than us. And so we can actually borrow our strengths to help their blind spots and vice versa. But we can't do that if we're just stuck in judging the other person about a myriad of things. So I think it's really got to come from this place of being curious, whether that's playing a game or just having casual conversations around money when it's not so stressed is really important, because this shows up in how we sleep. It shows up in our intimacy with a partner. It shows up in every area.
I am loving this exposure or looking into kind of understanding ourselves, our own relationship with money, our relationship with other people, how it's impacted. And I think just underscoring the need to give ourselves the time and space to know who we are better. And so, yeah, so grateful for how you've highlighted all of that. And you know what else I'm grateful for and so curious about?
I borrow from frequently, and it does strengthen me.
The Bill of the Week!
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the Bill of the Week.
Shannah, every week we yell at our listeners and our guests, and we invite them to share their bill with us. And we would love to hear yours today.
Mine actually isn't a bill, but it's a check that I received that is so fascinating. It was for 38 cents from a job I did 5 years ago that they forgot to pay me the extra 38 cents. And I thought it was so humorous that I actually just pasted it on the wall and thought, I am never going to spend this. I'm just going to look at it because it's like one of those things that just makes me crack up about money. And so when I feel stressful, I love having those things that are just totally laughable.
Oh my gosh.
How ridiculous.
Wow.
I mean, it's very justice oriented and very mathematical. And
What kind of job was it? Was it like a freelance or something?
It was, yes, it was a freelance job where I was an on-camera host for a couple of money teaching videos. And, what they paid me out was actually like a fairly large sum. And so with this 38-cent check was just a sorry, we were doing our records and we realized that we underpaid you. And so I thought reading the letter, like, oh, this is going to be a big check, right? And then I get to open the check and I'm just like, I said to my husband, I'm
Wow.
like, it's 38 cents.
Oh man, what a letdown.
Wow.
That is crazy.
I actually wrote them a thank you for, thank you for making sure that I received that 38
Yeah.
cents.
Could you imagine? Yeah, if you were just fuming these last years, they owe me.
I mean, in finance, there's not a lot of ethics. And so what a dream.
It was such a dream. I'm like, can you actually look back in your records? Is there more money that you potentially owe me? Like, if we're going on this treasure hunt, like, can we really dig here?
Yes. Are you sure
my
it was
gosh.
only 38 cents?
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Is the period in the wrong position? Is what I want to know. Like, can
Could
we
it
move
be
it over?
$3.80?
Yeah.
Could it be $38?
Could it? Let's just keep moving it to the right.
Yeah, let's
right?
keep moving it.
Could it be $3 million? That'd be lovely. Wow. If you all listening have a bill that you want to share, if it's about a non-bill, it's about just change that you have been owed for years, or if your name is Bill, frugalfriendspodcast.com/Bill. Leave it for us. We can't wait.
Sail to breathtaking destinations in Alaska or Europe with the Disney Cruise Line. Discover where onboard magic meets onshore adventures, where beloved characters
Hiya, pal!
meet alluring landscapes, where Broadway quality shows meet historic cities, where imaginative dining meets amazing wildlife, and where exciting experiences await the whole family. Book an adventure-filled summer Disney cruise to Alaska or Europe.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on what your kids are spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely. And parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/iHeart.
Stop hitting snooze on new tech. Upgrade the whole team at Lenovo.com. Unlock AI experiences with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, powered by Intel Core Ultra processors, so you can work, create, and boost productivity all on one device. Win the tech search for business PCs at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo. Tired of the winter cold? Don't worry, spring break season is right around the corner. And at Cheap Caribbean Vacations, it doesn't matter if you're traveling as a family or going on an adults-only getaway, they have beach deals for all types of all-inclusive vacays. Just book your spring break travel in March or April to unlock an extra $250 off your package price. This offer is valid through February 27th on vacation packages of 4 nights or more. Don't wait. Book now at cheapcaribbean.com.
And now it's time for
The lightning round. All right. I don't know what the lightning round question is.
Okay, I'm going to read it. Okay. Here we go. We're all going to answer in this vulnerability round. What's a money decision you've made recently that your younger self would have felt bad about or ashamed of?
Whoa.
And we'll let you go first, Shannah.
So many choices here to go with, if I'm going to be super honest. I had a certain amount of money that I could have put in investing, but instead I took that check and I went out and spent it on all sorts of things that I probably didn't need. But I'm in this process of putting out my book right now, and there was something so cathartic about spending an amount of money that I probably should have invested and done something much better for, and spent it on a myriad of things that I'm sure in a week I will recognize that I don't need, but I'll probably keep them because I hate the process of actually going out and returning things.
But now, are you ashamed of it now? Or do you feel a sense of freedom because of the healing you've experienced?
There's still a little bit of a shame there. Ooh, don't plug that number into a compound interest calculator and see what that could turn into in 5 or 10 years. So yeah, there's a little shame there. I mean, that's the tough part about being a money expert is you know what you should do. And when you don't do what you know you should do, you really have to talk yourself off a little ledge.
When you're a financial expert, you're always plugging in an amount of money into a compound interest calculator.
1,000%.
I did that yesterday.
I think that's the double-edged sword of knowing so much about money. Or even if you're not talking about money every day, if you're getting better with your money and recognizing opportunity costs. But I think we also need to have some freedom and permission to not do the most optimized, efficient, right thing with our money because we are human. And sometimes we also need to just enjoy life in the here and now. We can't invest every single dollar or always get the best possible deal or hold out until it drops to its lowest price. Like there are just real needs in the here and now. And yeah, I think there's room for that. If I can help to de-shame some of this for you, Shannah, I'm here for it.
Thank you. I'm going to accept it.
Yeah.
Take me off that ledge.
Yes. What about you, Jen?
Okay, so for me, we are not going to max out our 2024 Roth IRAs. I don't know if we will invest at all in our 2024 Roth IRA. And what shame that I am getting over it. For somebody who has maxed out their Roth IRA, 2 Roth IRAs every year for a while, because my husband took a lower paying job at the end of 2023 because he was overworking himself and he was miserable. And we decided, hey, we made a lot of good financial decisions before we had kids and in our early years with kids so that we could spend more time with our kids, so that we could live full lives now and not once they are in college and out of our house. And so that was the decision we made. We made a literal like a $14,000 a year cut, which is what we were basically putting into retirement. And we didn't invest last year.
Yeah.
And compound interest is still working for us. Definitely, I will have to invest again. This is not a long-term solution. But we gave ourselves a year to figure it out. And we'll see what 2025 holds. But gosh, a few years ago, I would have been a lot more scared about what the future would hold. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a similar answer to all of you. It just in the way that it's going to sound, but we spent money on a European vacation recently. Within a couple months ago, we went away and bought some lodging and some activities that actually, I will say, I truly felt guilt-free about. And part of that was because I did have money set aside for this very thing. But I think even to that thing of, but is this as optimized as I could have been with my money? I think I was truly able to let go of that and say, I have this money set aside for this purpose. It is to spend on this thing, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to enjoy it. And it was so fun.
Where did you go? I mean, now I have to ask.
We went to London, Switzerland, and Portugal.
Oh, please tell me you ate some good food and
of course
had some delicious chocolate and indulged.
Of course. Oh, and so much sangria in Portugal. They make some good sangria. Yeah, that was awesome. Well, thanks so much, Shannah, for being here. If people want more from you, they want to dig a little bit deeper into healing from money trauma, understanding this a little bit better, where can they get that from you?
You can get my book, Unraveling Your Relationship with Money, absolutely everywhere books are sold. You can also check out my podcast. I have over 1,200 episodes. Everyone's talkingmoney.com.
Yes.
Amazing.
Another OG.
Very OG.
podcaster. Yeah. And you've got us beat. Like we've got almost 500.
That is
and
amazing. So much wisdom to dig in on with you. Awesome. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
I really like that. I always say that I have budget PTSD, and it's a little bit of a joke, but it's also kind of what Shannah describes as one of these icks. Like it does cause avoidance in me. I have a natural propensity to avoid keeping track of my money because of this ick that I have with budgeting and the past icks that I've had with finding my identity or finding my value and my identity in my success with money and business. I still struggle with all of that, but it is definitely to a lesser extent. And when I see it, I recognize it earlier. I can catch it earlier. And I think that's the difference as we're going down this journey with money traumas. It's not necessarily possible to get rid of all of them, but it is possible to quickly identify and make a shift.
Yeah, I think it's recognizing that our money experiences can cause a negative association and degrees of hypervigilance and degrees of experiencing kind of threat to our livelihood and our lives and our stability and security. And so, I think that there can be a way to use the word trauma lightly, but then there's also a way to use it correctly. And so I think, there's definitely a spectrum of what it means to have experienced trauma, but then there's also just non-beneficial experiences, scary experiences, difficult experiences. And so kind of wherever we find ourselves on the spectrum there, I think what Shannah has talked about can be helpful in naming it, validating it, and then being able to move forward and heal from it, which in many ways is just experiencing the opposite. What can we do now that is different from the difficult experience that I've had in the past? So really, really appreciate these kind of deeper conversations that recognize, money is more than just pieces of paper in our pocket or numbers in our bank accounts, but there's so many other layers.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for listening. As you know, we have a book called Buy What You Love Without Going Broke that is available now. And we love reading your kind reviews about the podcast, but we've loved getting to read them about the book as well. We especially loved this one from Adam Harding. It says, practical, simple, and realistic financial advice, 5 stars. This book is a wonderful guide on how to tailor your finances to fit your ideal life. It provides easy-to-follow tips, a customizable framework, and helpful personal stories from the authors. Their concept of the radical middle is so helpful for your finances and so many other matters in life. Definitely recommend this book for people who don't like budgets or constantly overspend and stress over the small expenses of life. This book proves finances don't have to be a painful slog to avoid, but can be a fun, easy to implement way to empower the life you want to lead with confidence.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Adam.
Great review of the book.
What a good summary.
Yes.
We really appreciate that. If you've read the book and you haven't reviewed it yet, please do so. Wherever you purchased it, Amazon is a great place to be able to review the book. If you don't have the book yet, go get it wherever you buy books or buywhatyoulovebook.com.
Until then, see you next time.
Bye.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Sirianni.
So I did my nails, and I don't typically do my nails. I typically just let them be free. But
oh, are you going to tell the story again? I just have to prepare myself. Prepare the audience. Prepare yourself.
A story?
Yeah, for like why you decided to do your nails.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, okay, maybe. All right. I can see that. It's not weird. But I have been enjoying kind of longer nails. Usually I don't keep them long because I'm writing so much. I saw this, one of my friends who was one of my old editors, she was letting her nails grow out and broke one. And she then cut all her nails, which is typically what I do. And she's like, I'll be typing at least 40 words per minute faster now.
Yeah, without the slowdown.
I was like, oh man, yes, that's it. That's the struggle, right? But I'm not doing as much writing now. And so I was like, oh, I'd like to keep my nails a little long. But so I was grabbing Kai's backpack and one of my nails like flipped back and like really hurt. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to I'm not going to be able to have long nails and natural at the same time. But I'm also not going to go to the salon. So I actually have had this powder dip system for like 3 years. Yeah.
You never tried it.
I had tried it once and I wasn't great at it. It does have a learning curve and I'm still not great at it, but I picked a very neutral color so you can't really tell. That is the secret, right? But my nails now are very hard and still long. And I think I'm going to practice it and try to get better. I think part of it comes down to having the right tools. Like I think I need like a battery operated file, like one of those things. I believe that is the key to really getting it. But I'm going to try it a few more times and see if that is the solution.
So that your nail doesn't flip back.
Right. And this is just if I want to have longer nails. If I don't want to have longer nails, then I won't keep trying this. But yeah, I don't want alphabet nails, but like something in the middle.
Yeah, they look nice. I can't tell that you're not good at the dip system.
Thank you. Yeah, they're from afar. They look good. It looks like I don't have nails actually because I chose
like
a
nude
flesh color. Yeah, so it is super neutral. Yeah, almost too neutral.
They match too much.
Too neutral.
It's like putting makeup over your eyebrows.
Sad beige hand is what it is. It's a sad beige hand.
But hard, long nail. Well, that was fun.
At David's Bridal, love is in every stitch. From the initial sketch to the final details, each style is designed with exquisite craftsmanship. Every wedding gown, bridesmaid look, prom dress, and special occasion style in between features handcrafted details filled with love. Come see the magic in person. Book an appointment and sign up for Diamond Loyalty to save 15% on your first purchase. Earn points towards special rewards and more at davidsbridal.com.
Stop hitting snooze on new tech. Upgrade the whole team at Lenovo.com. Unlock AI experiences with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Powered by Intel Core Ultra processors. So you can work, create, and boost productivity all on one device. Win the tech search for business PCs at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo. With the best all-inclusive vacation deals to Mexico and the Caribbean, booking your getaway with Cheap Caribbean Vacations means you have more freedom to do your deal. Whether you want to enjoy snorkeling, endless margaritas and more, or simply soak up the sun and sand in a tropical paradise, Cheap Caribbean Vacations has your deal for that. Plan and book the exact way you want at exactly the right price for you by using our exclusive Budget Beach Finder. Or find a featured all-inclusive package to Iberostar Hotel and Resorts in Jamaica and do your deal at cheapcaribbean.com.
You know more about the PayPal debit card than you did at the start of this podcast. You know that the PayPal debit card gives you the ability to pay everywhere. You know that you earn 5% cash back on a category of your choosing on up to $1,000 of monthly purchases. And you know that you get to pick a new category every month. Apparel for back to school, groceries for the holidays. Start earning 5% cash back with the PayPal debit card today. Don't just pay, PayPal. Terms apply. See PayPal app. This card is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A., pursuant to license by MasterCard International, Inc.